In an Android-tastic news section, I've got brief news of the LG Nitro HD with a 4.5-inch, quote, true HD full 720p resolution RGB screen, reputedly of higher quality than that in the likes of the Galaxy Nexus and bright at 500 nits. Yes, that's only half of the Nokia 701 in the last phone show, but still pretty bright. It's Android 2.3, but I'm sure Android 4 will be just an update away. Other expected features include an 8-megapixel camera, LTE radio, 1.5 GHz dual-core processor, and 20 GB of total storage, 4 GB internal, plus an included 16GB microSD card. Two budget, carrier-subsidised pay-as-you-go Android smartphones that should make a big impact, at least here in the UK, are the Orange San Francisco 2 with Android 2.3, a 3.5-inch WVGA screen, 800 MHz processor and 5-megapixel camera, plus GPS and the other usual specs, albeit with budget components, all at £99 all in. Matching that price is the T-Mobile Vivacity with identical specifications but ostensibly very different design. The curious thing is that both are made by ZTE, and clever money has it that both these phones are actually the same, under the plastic styling. You can't argue with the price, mind you, for fairly up-to-date Android with a decent-sized screen. You'll recall that the original San Francisco won one of my top 5s by virtue of sheer value for money. Not quite so budget, but staying within the low end of the smartphone spectrum with similar specs and notable for the inclusion of NFC is the new Acer Liquid Express. This has an 800 MHz processor and Android 2.3, 3.5-inch screen, underperforms here thanks to a 480 by 320 resolution, ouch, and there are the usual Acer tweaks to the Android home screen. Staying with Android, and here's something very interesting, the Moto Active, a watch that runs Android. No, really, it's not clear which version, but hey, there's a 1.6-inch capacitive touchscreen, transflective so that it works well outdoors, Gorilla Glass to protect it from rough and tumble knocks, water and sweat resistance. The software is a skin on Android, of course, but you can log steps and movement in space with an audio coach to let you know how you're doing, and listen to music while you work out, with the watch even recording the music that gives you the best sports performance. Is it a phone? Well, no, not as such, but it interfaces directly with your Android smartphone to show notifications, access text messages, and so on. And maybe we'll see it getting closer to my own vision of 2015 from the last phone show, with full smartphone functions on your wrist. Ha! Is this the future?
Tempting though it is to go into an outrageous allegory about the massive, humongous size of the HTC Titan, it would be doing the device a disservice. The truth is that despite its headline-grabbing 4.7-inch display, it's actually not much bigger than its forebearer from 2010, the HD7 with a 4.3-inch screen. In fact, the Titan's even slightly lighter, by 2 grams. The bottom line is that if you've tried a 4.3-inch screen device like the HD7 in the past and have figured you could live with it, then the Titan really isn't a huge stretch. And the extra screen real estate makes the device even more pleasant for Windows Phone to stretch its legs. WVGA, that's 480 by 800 pixels on a 4.7-inch display, means a pixel density of only actually about 200 pixels per inch, taking it below that of the, quote, notoriously blocky Symbian NHD devices. But the latter are fine for me with my 50-year-old eyes. If you're an arch geek or coming from an iPhone 4, then you will notice a problem. But honestly, I quite enjoyed the Titan screen. The contrast on this rejigged Super LCD panel is really rather splendid, and the pixels have been moved up much closer to the glass outer surface. Outside, of course, it's a different matter. Super LCD can't compete with Nokia's CBD polarizers or Samsung's Super AMOLED secret sauce. But then a 4.7-inch screen phone without Gorilla Glass is something you'll probably treat with kid gloves, and mainly use away from the nasty, rough outdoors. Inside the Titan, the processor's been bumped up by 50% to 1.5 GHz, but it's still single core. Is this a problem? Absolutely not. I'm no tech snob. Windows Phone works pretty super silkily on all hardware I've tried. Good work by Microsoft here, but it does mean that users of older Windows hardware, like this HD7, are less likely to upgrade because it just all still works. There's the usual limitation on all these devices, just in this case the internal 13 gigabytes or so available flash memory. There's no expansion possible. But then it's so much hassle to convert videos for Windows Phone. You need a calendar to measure the transcoding time that most people just put on some music, and videos will all get streamed, i.e. from YouTube, in which case a huge capacity maybe isn't needed. unless you start capturing 720p video in quantity, which brings me to the camera. It's one of HTC's latest generation of cams. Perhaps the company has been stung by criticism from all quarters, especially from me, that all its previous units have been, well, complete rubbish. Anyway, results here are pretty excellent, close to those from the likes of the Galaxy S2, though stopping short of the resolution and range of the Nokia N8, as seen here. See what you think of all these sample photos here from the HTC Titan. The Titan's large, thin, somewhat fragile shape is rather impractical as a camera, but you can't at least fault the internals anymore. Focusing is done automatically as you move the scene around. Take it a couple of seconds each time to lock on, so then you get the shot you want when you're ready. This is test video recording with continuous autofocus on the HTC Titan. 720p resolution as well, and the stereo audio, although you have to turn all of this on manually. By default you get VGA and everything off. Go figure. The OS is standard Windows Phone Mango with its huge pros and rather galling cons. See Phone Show 152 for my treatise on Windows Phone. There's plus some HTC extras here, including HTC Watch, a video store. There's connected media, DLNA sharing. There's flashlight, as it sounds. Very nice though. HTC locations, a diary-like geolocation note taker, and more. For my eyes, Windows Phone on this huge and clear screen works brilliantly, making this the flagship device for the OS. But then we come to the design and the construction of the Titan. The name implies super strength, but the reality is a large and scratchable glass surface onto the back of which is bonded just about the entire phone. It all sits cradled in this aluminium back shell. Oddly out of sight, I could tolerate this, but there's the same arrangement as the HTC Sensation, where the RF aerials for the phone are all in the back cover with plastic inserts, and pairs of gold connectors make the all-important connections to the phone when the innards are inserted into the unit, like this. Look, maybe I'm being a bit paranoid, but that's no way to connect up the vital cellular and Wi-Fi antennae. What happens when the phone's a bit older, or has been dropped, or has been exposed to humidity or dirt, and some of these connections become intermittent? And feeding my reliability paranoia, listen to this creaking, by the way. Put it up near the microphone. As the innards move inside the back shell. Oh my. Look, HTC, your component upgrades are fine. They're superb. You've listened, you really have. Great camera, great screen. There's even a great loudspeaker. When have I ever said that about HTC hardware before? But it all needs to be mounted in a traditional, solid, monoblock design, like the HD7. I have never ever so badly wanted the best bits of two related devices in the one piece of hardware. To quote Clint in the movies, are you feeling lucky? Go for a Titan and you'll adore it in almost every way. It really is that good an experience. But don't scratch it, don't drop it, and perhaps try not to take it outdoors too much. The Titan.